full session. So welcome to all of you in today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We have been on a fascinating journey of discussing science versus spirituality, and we'll take it a little further today to discuss more on the spiritual science today and less on the other science that we've been talking about. We'll do a quick recap and we'll peel a few more layers around this topic today. So again, a very warm welcome to all of you. And let me get started by sharing my screen and invoking the blessings of God and Guru like we always do. So let me share it and we will get started. All right, I know you're able to see it. I'm not going to confirm that. All right, so let's get started. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we take blessings from Guru and then from Lord Krishna as well, who's the original Jagadguru. And in this particular verse, it says that comes Chanura Mardanam. Why is taken, in this particular verse, killing a demon, the one who slayed Kans. So that is because slaying a demon is slaying a doubt. A doubt in our head on the path of spirituality is like a demon. It can grow over time and could actually be really counterproductive for our journey. So it's important through the platform of this wonderful channel or the platform that we have, we are able to slay our doubts and approach this path with assurance and confidence, and of course, bliss and joy that comes along with it as well. So let's pick up the shlokas that we've been talking about, where Lord Krishna is saying that there is a difference between the science of the field of activities and the knower of the field. And that is essentially the difference that we are trying to call out between spiritual science and the material science. So we will go a little deeper into this topic today. Let me recite it and you're welcome to follow along. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramityabhidhiyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahuhu Kshetragya iti tadvidaha. Okay, whom do we have?
Yeah, there are a couple of hand raised. Radhe Radhe, Samji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramityabhidhiyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu Kshetragna iti tadvidaha. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, maybe two more hands.
Rahulji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Rahul.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram iti abhidhiyate Etadayo veti tah prahu Kshetragya iti tadvidah. Radhe Radhe.
Nice, Rahul. Radhe Radhe.
Ashutoshji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Ashutosh.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramitya Bhidhiyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu Kshetragya iti tadvidaha.
Very nice, Ashutosh. So let's move on. We'll pick up the remaining hands on the next one. So it says that the Supreme Divine Lord said, O Arjun, this body is termed as Kshetra, the field of activities. And the one who knows this body is called Kshetra Yagna. Kshetragna, not Yagna, Kshetragna, the knower of the field, by the sages who discern the truth about both. And the next one, let's move on in this one. So we'll pick up the remaining hands here. It says, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragyor jnanam yattaj jnanam matam mama.
Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go
Radhe
ahead.
Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvkshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragyor jnanam yattaj jnanam matam mama.
Very nice, thank you. Let's pick up a few more hands, especially the
Yes.
ones who have turned on their videos.
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Shyamji.
Radhe Radhe. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvkshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragyo jnanam yataj jnanam matam mama. Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Radhe Radhe. All right, let's take a few more hands.
Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragyor jnanam yajnanam matam mama.
Very
Radhe
nice,
Radhe.
Sumesh. Radhe Radhe. I see a lot of videos turned on today, which is a very welcome sign. Okay, let's take a few more hands who have turned on their videos.
Aparna ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe
You
everyone.
are earning a lot of points for your team today, okay, which is a very good sign. All right.
Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetnajnayor jnanam yattajnanam matam mama.
Very nice. Thank you,
Radhe Radhe.
Aparna ji. Radhe Radhe.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Vishramya.
Radhe Radhe. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattajnanam matam mama. Thank
Very
you.
nice, Shri Ramya. Radhe Radhe. Okay.
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattajnanam matam mama. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice. Thank you.
Ragi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
क्षेत्रज्ञे च अपि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञो ज्ञानं यत् ज्ञानं मतं मम.
Very nice, Pragi ji. Last two hands, real quick.
Chandru ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Kshetrajnanam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetrashu bharata kshetra kshetrajnano jnanam yattat jnanam matam mama.
Very nice,
Radhe
Shamiji.
Radhe.
Thank you. Last but not the least.
I have later on, please. Afterwards, I'll ask you the question about this I hold to be true knowledge. If you will kindly explain that to
Sure.
me, sages who discern the truth about both.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I will expound on this topic. Sure.
Thank you.
Priya
Ji,
ji,
last.
please go ahead. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayo jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama.
Thank you, Riyaji. So let's get started. In this verse, Lord Krishna is saying, O Scion of Bharat, I am also the knower of all individual fields of activity. The understanding of the body as the field of activities and the soul and God as knowers of the field. This I hold to be true knowledge. Now, he's expanding the scope of knowledge, and what he's terming as true knowledge is not limited to knowing about the field of activities, which is what is material science, which is limited to at the bodily platform alone. What he's saying is when you get a little deeper, body is fine, which is material, and the field of activities around it, which is governed by the material laws. I'll get into that particular slide. But the true knowledge is not only knowing about the field of activities, but the knower of the field as well. There is an observer, right? If you think deeply about it, especially when you'll sit in meditation, there is an observer. You can observe things happening around you. You can observe your, things happening in your body, basically, especially if, certain sensations are there. You can observe your mind. You can even observe your intellect, which is called Sakshi Bhav or witness consciousness, which is what the soul is. And our spirituality is basically talks about the soul of our soul, which is called the super soul. So when you have that complete knowledge, Lord Krishna is saying that is the true knowledge, basically. Okay, that is all encompassing complete knowledge. Until you reach that point, you still have a partial knowledge, no matter who you are. You may be a Nobel laureate or erudite or a great professor or a great scholar, but your knowledge is not completed until you have understood not only the field of activities, but the knower of it as well. So science doesn't talk about spirit, soul at all, right? That is why both sciences are there. They both have their own place, and that's what we're going to discuss more. So let's move on. So this is what we are going to talk about today. Putting it all together, we'll try to put it all together, what we have been discussing and why both of these sciences are important and none can be ignored. Okay. Materialists would say this is all just, discard this stuff. I don't know what you guys do, right? This is all hocus pocus stuff. And a spiritualist will say, Maya, stay away from Maya. You should not look at this and this is all Maya and don't even touch money and all that stuff, right? Actually, not so much. It's also an energy of God and a bona fide science as well around it. So this is what we are going to talk about today. So quick recap. This is what the Kshetragya we are talking about, bodies. And this is the body. Body is not our true identity. Our true identity is the I and the soul, right? That we call it. And then there is something which energizes our body, which is soul. And there is something which energizes our soul, which is called the super soul. Okay. Now, understanding of the self. In this particular context, if you look at it, the Supreme Lord is saying that there is a distinction between all three of these. And even if you're a doctorate or a D.Lit, you may consider yourself to be scholarly, but if you don't understand the distinction between these three, then your knowledge is partial. You are not knowledgeable. And that is where spiritual science is not basically non-discretionary. It is discretionary. As humans, we need to know that distinction, right? Athato Brahma Jikyasa. It is incumbent upon us to inquire that who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? What is the relationship with God? All these questions are basically, it's part of being born as humans. It is incumbent or obligatory upon us to seek answers to these questions. If we haven't, then we have done ourselves a big disfavor. Just leading a mundane life around the primal activities that even animals perform is not a big deal. To whom much is given, more is expected. So knowing that distinction, at least we may not be able to know that distinction completely, not even get to that stage of realization. That's fine. As long as that spark is there and we are taking steps in the right direction, we are actually aligning to the purpose of our life. If we are not, we are too hung up in our worldly relationships and making sure we have first this and then that and then this, and then we will take to spirituality. It's a mind playing tricks. It will never be perfect. You don't wait for the rain to pass. You go out there and dance, right? Skillful sailors are made during the stormy seas. So sea will never calm down. If we are waiting for the sea to calm down before we'll start making spirituality a priority, our mind is simply fooling us that it has been doing since time eternity. So knowing that distinction and trying to, understand that, and when we understand that is when we have the true or complete knowledge. Until then, our knowledge is not complete. That is essentially what Lord Krishna is saying. So have a distinction between, there's a field of activities that are happening, which is all covered in our material science. And then who is the observer there? What is your true identity? And then who is cause of all the causes, even the soul of your soul? That science is spiritual science, where that enables us to understand that and give us tips, tools, techniques to get that to that deeper realization. Okay? Now, the soul is only the knower of the individual field. We are, like yesterday we spoke, we are Anusat, Anuchit, Anuanand in a limited capacity. God is Vibhusat, Vibhuchit, Vibhuanand. We are Mayadhin, he is Mayatit. Okay. So in this limited context, soul knowledge of the field is incomplete. And God is the knower of all the fields of all the souls. See, God is, let's understand who God is. We don't even remember what we were thinking yesterday at the same time. Do we remember? We don't remember. What were we thinking 1 hour back? We don't even remember that, because we are Anu. Now God is a one who knows it not only for us. Pratek sankalp of pratek second, pratek sankalp means every resolve that we have made in every moment of every lifetime. God has that for every soul. Okay, now just imagine the kind of supercomputer God has to know that, right? Pretty amazing. And that is who God is. So knowing, inquiring about that entity is something that is called, that can only be known through a spiritual science, and which is called Kshret, basically the knower of the field. And God's knowledge is perfect and complete in every sense. Our knowledge is imperfect and incomplete until we become God realized or like God itself. Now let's move on. So this is what we have been talking about, science and spirituality. Where does it stand basically? Is it one based on hard logic and assumption is what we have been challenging. And I think we have reached a stage, pretty much all of us have reached a stage. Hopefully now you don't have that question anymore, where we say both have to take a leap of faith. Okay? Without leap of faith, you can't make progress in either. There's an hypothesis, there's an observation, and then you conclude something. In fact, science has to take even bigger leap of faith, right? Because it's an ascending knowledge, and it is always limited with our intellectual capacity or the ability that we have in a given point of time. Different eras have different truths about the same matter. Science, on the other side, spiritual science, of course, that is also requires faith to begin with, but that faith has a basis, has a foundation. The triple filter test that we spoke about yesterday is basically the basis for that, and that gives us a good basis to actually try it out. And we spoke about the proof is in the pudding as well. We'll talk about that as well. So Vedic perspective, both these sciences are bona fide. We cannot say one is there, other one is farce. You can ignore it, nothing of that sort. Both are important, both have their own place. One is the study of laws, which is called Aparavidya, and the other one is called Paravidya, which is the study of the lawmaker itself. One is the study of the field of activities, the other is the study of the knower of the field. Okay, so both are bona fide set of knowledge. Now, synthesis of both is necessary for making our life a success. That is the key thing, key buzzword or executive statement around this whole concept. We need to synthesize both so that we can make our life a success. If we ignore one, it will cause an imbalance, and then we will not be able to proceed, right? We have to take care of our body, we have to take care of other needs. And in the latest book, Swamiji has written, right, we are juggling so many balls as human life, especially if you are, in a household life and all, you have to juggle so many balls. Your finances, your relationships, then your work, your health, and of course, spirituality. You cannot negate any aspect. If you do, it will be counterproductive for your spiritual journey as well, because you will not get favorable situation and circumstances. If your health is not supporting, nothing will happen. If your financials are not good, you are always insecure about it, then also you'll not be able to proceed, right? So we have to balance everything, and that is where material science comes in handy. You have to know certain things, right? You have to be a prudent financial planner. You have to imbibe yoga in your day-to-day life. You need to have behavioral competence with regards to dealing with the relationships right? All these factors are equally important, and those are provided to us through material science. However, the tragedy of human life is we just spend our life acquiring tidbits of material science only, or material expertise only, and completely neglecting the spiritual science, thinking that material science is the be all and end all of everything, and that is the only yardstick for success in our current life. Okay, that is the tragedy of human life if it happens. Now let's move on. Triple filter test, we had spoken about it, that if the something is stated in scriptures, there is a scriptural backing or a reference in it stated by multiple saints. All the saints that have come, Mirabai, Tukaram, Tulsidas, Kabir Das, Guru Nanak Dev, they are all saying the same thing. So that is good enough testimonial for us. See, we go to restaurants looking at Yelp because our friend is saying that. We trust, okay, some good reviews there, so people are saying then it must be good, so let's try it out. But so many saints have said that, right? We have our doubts around it. Maybe we don't have exposure to the teachings that they have, or maybe that we have a reason to doubt them as well. But we put faith in so many testimonials around it. That's why we take testimonials for everything, right? Because the verbal testimonials are the sure shot formula for human beings to know that. In this case, we have testimonials for so many saints. And then the third, of course, is our Guru is saying that, is reiterating the same. So his teachings, his words are not coming across as his own personal views. Right? If you come and listen to somebody's discourse, and there's absolutely no scriptural reference to it, that maybe that person's views, that person might be very elevated or at a very high level of spiritual understanding, may not still be God realized. So those views might be capped with his own intellectual cap that person has reached. But if you're not going back to the scriptures, taking the testimonial of the Vedas and our scriptures, then again, there's always a bit of gray area around it. Okay, maybe it's a complete truth, or maybe it is not. We don't know that. So it is always advisable when you hear somebody, whoever that guru is it backed with scriptures? Has it been reiterated by multiple saints? And your guru is saying the same in line with that. That is a sure shot proof that you can rely on that particular piece of knowledge. Okay, it's a good, intelligent faith to have these three principles. So, and then, of course, that knowledge becomes bona fide knowledge. We have a good reason to believe that. But I would say you don't even believe that. Okay, you take it a little further. Okay, it makes sense. You have a reason to believe it's coming from a bona fide source. What that source of knowledge is, there's a good reason for you to trust that. It's not a blind faith. It's kind of an educated, intelligent faith. But then the proof is in the pudding. We spoke about it, right? So it's very important to actually taste it as well. Okay, don't just go with the recipe alone. And then when you do that, then you get an update. We spoke about it, like this gentleman got an update, and you feel the enlightenment, and the ignorance starts going away. It's very empowering when ignorance starts giving way to proper pure knowledge. Okay, so then now let's move on. So Einstein said that science has succeeded in denaturing the plutonium atom, but it cannot denature the evil in man's hearts. Are impure thoughts evil thoughts? Pretty powerful statement, right? Science says we do not know, do not know about it. We study the phenomena of the external world, and we learn how to harness the forces of nature for our luxury and comfort. When it comes to inner purification, don't ask us, because the technology is not available to science. Is there any technology available? No. There's a shortcoming there very clearly. Yes, it can make our life comfortable. It can give us car. It can give us air condition, fridge, nice comfortable lounge, sofas. All that is fine. But when it comes to, and even the medical procedures, all the advancements that it is making to increase the longevity of human life, even though the quality of life may not improve, you may continue to live long. All that is there. But then the technology, when it comes to purifying your inner self, there's no technology available. Science doesn't even talk about it. It has no basis for that, right? Self-help books, and we'll talk about that, but then science doesn't have answers to that. Moving on, There's no scientific technology available to answer these questions. What are these questions? Have you read these answers to any of these questions? The first one is, why am I in this world? Can science explain that? It cannot. How to handle suffering? Can science explain that? Did you hear it in any journal? Science, physics, chemistry, maths, or STEM subjects, or any other things? It doesn't. Sociology and other those branches, material sciences are there, but then it barely scratches the surface, right? Now, a lot of branches are coming up right now around psychology, neuroplasty, and other pieces, moral science and stuff like that. But then it just barely scratches the surface. Maybe symptomatic cures around some of the stuff, right? There are so many forwards and WhatsApps. You say, do not take worry, but nobody answers the question, how not to take worry, right? And then we end up forwarding it to 10 more people whom we love and think, okay, our job is done now, we will not worry, and they will also not worry because we have sent them. How not? We have to get into that, right? That is not even a symptomatic cure. It's a feel good thing you get just by seeing that. Wow, what a message. Now, what a message is fine, but where's the technology, how to imbibe that message or how to attack it at the root, right? It's just a symptomatic lame attempt at telling us there is a possibility. And then how do you make that possibility a reality? Nobody talks about it. And there's no technology available, to be honest, right? Then this question that how is this world created and who created it? We'll talk about that as well. How to achieve our best potential as humans. Okay, those things are there. Again, we are scratching the surface on a lot of fields, especially in fields which requires human excellence, like in sports or high endurance sports, or maybe in some of the elite colleges. You scratch the surface to some extent, but are you truly able to realize your true potential as a human? No. You're probably made an advancement of maybe an inch towards that 10-mile journey, but it doesn't have the tools and techniques to tell you, first of all, what is their true potential. That question cannot be answered by science. And secondly, how to get there, that question, what is the way, process and procedures to get there, that also science doesn't have an answer. How to purify our minds? Absolutely not. Nobody has that technology when you go to scientific circles, right? And how to get everlasting peace and happiness? Okay, don't take worry, be positive, all that is fine. But that is just a symptomatic cure, because we are not getting to the root of each one of these problems. That is why Lord Krishna is a master psychologist. He's a master, a psychologist, sociologist, you name it, everything. If you go to Bhagavad Gita, he's actually attacking everything at a very fundamental level. How do the mechanics of our mind works? Why do you get angry? Why do you get upset? How do you dissociate yourself with stress? All those things are very, very systematically and attacked at a very fundamental level, not just at a superficial high level. Okay, that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. So all these answers we don't get from science. So we can conclude that science, when it comes to asking, or addressing some of the basic questions of life, as it relates to human, there's of course there's a shortcoming there. Okay, and that shortcoming is filled by the spiritual science. Now, what are Vedas? Vedas are defined as Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavishyam Cha Sarvam Vedat Prasidhyati. The veracity of any spiritual principle related to the past, present, or future is established on the basis of Vedas. Okay, that's why I'm saying anything that is being taught by your guru, that principle has to map back to something on the Vedas, because Vedas is a manual revealed as soon as the creation comes about. We'll talk about that as well. It's not a name of a book. It refers to the eternal knowledge of God. And every time Lord creates the world, he manifests the Vedas. When he dissolves creation, he absorbs them back into himself. Okay, so there's a knowledge that gets revealed as soon as the creation comes about. And Vedas do not have an author. They are called Apurushaya, meaning these books were not composed by anybody. Apurushaya means they are not written by humans. And because they are not written by humans, they are not subject to the 4 flaws. Right? We have spoken about those 4 flaws as well. Whenever something is written by human, it will always have those 4 flaws. Right? Pramad, ignorance is there. And then there are 4 flaws which it will always be subject to. And because of it, it will always be imperfect. No matter who the author is, how elevated that person is, if it is not coming in from Vedas or written by a realized saint, there will always be a shortcoming in that writing. And when you subscribe to that writing as your source of truth, you are also capping your intellect to the intellect of that person and the defects that that writing may be subjected to as well. That is simply how it works. Now let's move on. Now let's talk about Vedas. Now you say Vedas, you are taking, saying a lot of good things about Vedas. Now let's look at people and some of the philosophers of our modern era who came across this body of knowledge, had the great fortune of coming across this body of knowledge because of their inquisition or seeking that they had, and they probably got a drop of that. Okay, nobody can go through the entire scriptures on their own. First of all, they probably relished a drop of it, and let's say the testimonials that they have to say about it. Okay, so let's start with look at some of those testimonials. First one is from Schopenhauer. Okay, and these are not ordinary people, they are the darshaniks or the philosophers of the modern era. He said Vedas are the most rewarding and the most elevating book which can be possible in the world. Okay, it's coming from Arthur Schopenhauer. Who else? Then you had Mr. Max Muller. He said there is no book in this world that is so thrilling, stirring, and inspiring as the Upanishads. Okay, Upanishads is nothing but a distillation of the Vedas as well. Then you have Mr. Eisenberg. He said that after the conversations about Indian philosophy, some of the ideas of quantum physics that had seemed so crazy made much more sense. He's able to map some of the quantum physics concepts, right? When God is talking about all the energy and all this, it just started making sense. And this is something coming from Heisenberg himself, who's one of the great scientists in the field of physics, especially on the quantum physics side. Then you have Ralph Waldo Emerson, right? English literature. What is it? He said that in the great books of India, an empire spoke to us. Nothing small or unworthy, but large, serene, consistent voice of old intelligence, which in other age and climate had pondered and thus disposed of the questions that exercise us. But these are all people, that we can, you would know. And these people came across Vedas and they had such high words to say about these, right? Henry David Thoreau. Whenever I have read any part of the Vedas, I felt that some unearthly and unknown light illuminated me. In the great teachings of the Vedas, there is no touch of sectarianism, and in all ages, climes and nationalities, and the royal road for the attainment of the great knowledge. When I'm at it, I feel that I'm under the spangled heavens of a summer night. Okay, so people were blown away when they came across this knowledge. And then you look at Mr. William James. He said the practical art of surgery, medicine, music, house building, under which mechanized art is included, everything is included in Vedas. Everything. Okay. They are an encyclopedia of every aspect of life, culture, religion, science, ethics, law, cosmology, and meteorology, basically, meteorology. So it's a very all-encompassing language. And then Ella Wheeler Wilcox, he also said that India, the land of Vedas, remarkable works contain not only religious ideas for a perfect life, but also facts which science has proved true. Electricity, radium, electronics, airship, all were known to the seers who finding the Vedas. So it's just a few. See, we don't need so many testimonials. It's just to drive home the point that we are sitting on a gold mine. We don't give it the value that we should. When somebody else sells us, an outsider, we said, oh, really? They also thought it this way. And then it says, okay, maybe we are. How many of us knew that, so many Western philosophers who came across Upanishads, Vedas, they have such great things to say about that? Not many. And especially the, the younger generation who talk a lot about science and stuff like that, they would have no clue about it. Some of the great philosophers, scientists, Nobel laureates who came across this knowledge have so many great things to say about it. Okay, we don't know that. That is the unfortunate part. It's only because of Swamiji. I don't know how he gets to do all this research. We have this knowledge, and I'm fortunate enough to present it here. But think of it. These people are not ordinary people. I mean, they have been pretty people who have reached the epitome of success in their respective fields, and they are able to say that about the scriptures that emanated, that are basically from Sanatan Dharam. And ideally, we should be knowing about all these facts, pretty early on in life. So that is what Vedas are. Now, let's talk about, I think, a lot of stuff here. Now let's talk about, this is a typewriter. Okay, now not forget about the typewriter. Let me build that one by one. So here's a beautiful literature. You see that? Beautiful literature is there. Nice compositions, stories and poems, and whatever that rich literature should entail. So this is a beautiful literature. And somebody came across this literature and asked, how did it come about? Okay. And the answer he got was, you know what? There was a typewriter, and some pages were around there, and the pages flew into the typewriter, and then automatically typewriter started typing, and then the pages came out, and then automatically those pages were put together in a binder, put together in a nice copy, documented and placed here. So what kind of an answer would you think that would be? If somebody says this composition came about by, there was an explosion, I would say, and the typewriter was set into motion, the paper also got into it, the typing also started, every word just made sense like a perfect symphony, and then the paper came out, and then you put the book together and placed it in that library. So what if somebody tells you this story, what would you say? Would you believe, and why or why not? Anybody who wants to say that? There's a pin drop silence. Yes, Tanmeji. Okay, maybe
Tanmeji, please go ahead. Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
In quantum physics, I just know that until unless someone observes that electron, the future changes the present, right? So the couple, I would say I am not that into physics, but I do know something like the future changes the present, and the present changes the future, I guess. So until unless you observe, the things doesn't manifest.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, yeah, quantum physics says that the particle changes its behavior based on the observer. So it is wave, but when it sees, it becomes a particle. But yeah, that's a difference. All I'm saying is you have a beautiful literature. It's a literature. There's a lot of what do you call that method in that, right? When the literature written, a lot of thought goes into it. In order to write a sonnet or a symphony, of course, there's a lot of thought gets into it. What I'm saying is it just happened with an explosion. All the typewriter paper getting into it, the typing, the compilation, and every word and everything just came about perfectly. Okay. So is it even plausible? This kind of an argument is what I was asking. So let's hear from Preeti ji, and then a couple of other hands we can take.
Preeti ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Simply implausible, because there is no kshetragya here. I mean, we were just talking about those two, the knower of the body, who is missing. So this is just not possible. The typewriter needs to be typed upon with a brain, with a heart, and brain and heart both in symphony, and probably this is Bhagavad Gita class. So I would say even the intelligence. So
true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Preeti ji. Yes, I will build on that. Maybe I'll take one more. Vijay ji, you wanted to add something, and then we can take maybe a couple more hands and then move on.
Vijay ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead. Okay.
Yes.
Are you? Yes,
Yeah,
Vijay ji.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I'm now unmuted now. So it's very difficult to imagine that something would get typed automatically. It's hard to believe, actually.
It's hard to believe. Point taken. Fair point.
Radhe Radhe.
So, Radhe Radhe. Thank you. Yeah, it's very implausible, right? Yes, Nilesh ji, you wanted to say something?
Please go ahead, Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Nitinji, it is possible maybe in Yash Raj movies where the type might get by itself, and maybe you can produce a blockbuster movie.
Yash Raj movies. Okay, fair point. Okay. Yash Raj movies, anything is possible. Yes. By the way, we'll talk about Natu tomorrow. Okay, Oscars. Scotland, so we'll talk about that as well tomorrow. Yes, Sandhya.
Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So, of course, this way, the way we are describing it, it is definitely impossible. But that being said, God can build systems in place which can result in some processes that can happen in some sense on their own, not completely on their own, but those systems are built by God. For example, a
Yep.
child takes birth from a mother's womb, and there is a process that takes place. And I mean, so it's just that we don't understand how these processes occur at this stage. But God has built very, very beautiful systems which kind of are working in, yeah, I mean,
Got it. So
yeah.
basically, you need something to be orchestrating it, not all by itself. Point taken. Okay.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it is implausible for sure. Yes, Swarnaji, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Swarnaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. This seems totally impossible in the material realm if somebody ponders over it, but then it's pretty synonymous to how God has created the universe through his energy, through his consciousness,
Yeah.
universe, several universes, and then he has narrowed down to galaxies, then solar systems, then the life on the planet, then the abiotic conditions, the Maya Shakti, and
Sure.
he distributed in form of the government all the work to Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, then the
Perfect.
celestial gods.
See, all
And
of
that
you
is
are bringing God into the mix. That's where I have a problem with. Okay. I don't want to bring God into the mix. Okay. Because I'm a scientist right now. I would tell you there was an explosion that happened. Okay. And it just fell in place, and believe it. And we have believed it for most part of our life. Okay. Now you have started challenging it, but we have believed it. Teachers,
the big
right? So this is what we have believed in, and you have very proudly tell Big Bang happened. And that's what science has taught us in our school, right? So that's what I'm saying. Let's not bring God into the mix and just think for a moment. Explosion brings destruction or construction, first of all. And secondly, even Newton, I think he was working with the model of the solar system. And then, his friend, he said, how is it possible basically that he was saying it's a miracle. He said, no, it's not a miracle. It can happen with a bang. So Newton said, you go out and come back after 15 minutes, and Newton created a beautiful model of sun inside and all the planets revolving around it. And then he came back and he said, who created it? Newton said, nobody. And there was an explosion, thus things fell in place. He said, are you kidding me? He said, who started the joke? So the point here being, now let me move on quickly, because we have a little more content to cover. So the point I'm trying to make it is this Big Bang thing that we're talking about, right, is essentially the same argument. Okay. Same argument where we say, boom, something happened and everything fell in place. Okay, every atom, it just got positioned in such a nice way. Earth got the right tilt, right mass around the sun, a nice orbit. Every particle basically got the right spin, velocity, so that it doesn't become plasma. Matter is matter. Everything just beautifully fell in place. The seeds. And so this is basically an implausible concept. Okay, and that is what science, the basis of science for this evolution, how this whole thing started is. Just think about it. Common sense. Swamiji says basically, if you common sense will make you start believing in spirituality. Common sense. You don't need big theories and stuff like that, right? But science would say Big Bang. I mean, what Big Bang? You have an explosion and things will fall in place. So behind this creation, there is a very brilliant brain behind it. For us to create even a pot, small pot of mud pot, right? A potter. So many things are needed. It needs raw material. You need the mud or a clay. Then you need an instrument, right, on which you can mold it. Then you need the skill of a potter who has to do this. Then you need the intent that you need the intelligence how to shape it. And even after all that stuff, if you don't have the intent to do it, you won't create it. So 5 or 6 things are needed just to create a small pot. And here we are saying this whole world came out, with no intent and nothing, involuntary action, some bang happened and it came into being. It is very implausible. So that is where God is defined in Brahma Sutra as a very second definition. The first one is Athato Brahma Jigyasa, inquire into who is God. And the second sutra says God is one who created this world. Very clearly in our scriptures it is said, okay, which we have so hard time believing for the rest of our most part of our lives unless we get exposure to this knowledge. Right? How many people would die with this knowledge that Big Bang created us? Pretty much most of them, unless they get exposure to this thing, right? So the Big Bang is basically God created this creation and not an explosion. Okay. The very fundamental thing that science would have us believe has some shortcomings there. Why? Because there are things that cannot be explained. We haven't reached that stage as yet where we can actually explain some of the stuff. Entropy is explained by science. It is expanding, which makes sense. Everything keeps on expanding, and that is a concept in chemistry, that entropy, everything is expanding, which science can explain, which makes sense. But how did it come about? Nobody can explain that, right? And you have to bring another entity, a divine entity, into the mix, which science typically, because you can't explain that, feel uncomfortable with. But scientists who reach that stage, pinnacle of their achievements, they have the humility to accept that. Newton said, while I was busy playing with the pebbles on the seashore, there lied an entire sea still unexplored. That is the realization he had at the peak of his discoveries. And Einstein said, there are only two ways of looking at this world. Everything is a miracle or nothing is. So these are the words that came from great scientists. This is the realization they had at that point. Okay, so now let's move on and get into a bit of a story. Okay, so you see the guy, enough of serious discussion. So now let's get into that. So here's a guy, he's getting a coffee. Okay, so this is how the conversation goes between this gentleman and this lady who's serving the coffee. He said, 1 coffee, please. And she says, 4.25, please. He said, I've got $5 bill. She says, thank you. He says, where's the change? She says, change has to come from within. Okay, argument settled. Now the point here is, how do you bring about the change from within? That's a big question. Okay, point taken, change has to come from within, but how do you bring it from within? Right, that's a question. Now science cannot tell us that. Okay, there's no answer science can give us about this. And that is where the pursuit of science is basically, goal is to remove the suffering of humankind and ultimately provide us the fulfillment and happiness that we are looking for. But it has not happened, right? We hope that with all the material pursuits and the frontiers that we break on the material side are going to make us happy one day, but it has not happened, right? People have become, even though the global GDP of the world has increased from 1940s to 2020, but the happiness index has probably gone down. Science has not helped us, achieve that end. And that is where your spiritual science would come. John Milton had said that mind is a place of its own. It can take a heaven out of hell, hell out of heaven. This mind will determine your happiness, and how to purify and cleanse your mind. All that stuff is basically not told. So the quality of our life does not depend on the number of bedrooms in our house, but on the mind within. And spirituality gives us the framework to remove suffering at the deepest level and pathway to lasting wellness. And we will do a comparison between these two. What are the limitations of one and what is provided for or given to us in the other science tomorrow. I know we have spoken a lot today. I'll open it up for any questions anybody has. I see a few hands there, and then we have a few announcements as well, right?
Yes.
Joe, and a few other things that we wanted to talk about. So let's open it up now.
So we'll take some questions. Yeah. Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, it was more like a comment. I just wanted to say, we don't have to unnecessarily defame all the scientists. Like what I'm trying to say is, just like in spirituality, there are people, some who believe in formless God, some who believe in form God. Like there are different people think differently. Even in science, as you also mentioned, that some of the scientists have realized that the wonders of creation cannot be understood without having God into the picture. So from that perspective, science can be used as an amazing tool to understand the wonders of God and highlight them to others and make them also understand that God has created beautiful.
Yeah, this exercise is not to demean science. Okay, that's not the intent of it. It is just telling the shortcomings, because most of our lives we have led believing science is the thing that gives us all the answers. So this exercise or the sessions are actually to put it in perspective. Science is important. Material science is equally important basically for us basically, and that doesn't seem all the scientists are agnostic. I'm not stereotyping them. Okay, all I'm trying to say here is that science has its limitations. So we have to take the best from both and keep progressing spiritually. right? Science is there to make our life comfortable, right? If we have ailments and if we cannot perform surgery, right, which is enabled to us by science, we cannot even progress spiritually. So it has its own place, but we have to keep it in perspective. That's about it. And not think that science has all the answers for us. We have
Of
hyped it up in
course,
our
yeah.
head. I'm just dwarfing it. That's all. But at the same
Mhm.
time, not to suggest that all the scientists are agnostic, right? We have scientists like you who are believers, and people actually who reach a level, they become believers because the humility comes in. They marvel at the creation and even the science phenomena that are happening. And that brings in that humility and an appreciation and an understanding that there is a power which is controlling it. That is the whole idea. So it is there, but I'm just challenging some of the stereotypes related to spirituality against science, and that it may seem a little tilted in favor of spirituality, but that's not the intent. Okay, science has its own place, spirituality has its own place. However, spirituality takes us closer to God. That has the technology. Science is more of an enabler. Let's treat science as an enabler, not as a be all and end all of everything. Right? Like they talk about IT. IT is not business. IT is an enabler to business. Business is business, right? I'm in an IT field, but I'm not generating money for my company by doing IT. I'm just enabling so that systems are secure so that they can do the real thing. Similarly, science is more of a enabler so that we can continue to progress in spirituality and not uh, counter spirituality as such. That is the whole idea.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, science is an enabler. Without science, we cannot, I mean, even to maintain our body, we need science. We need yogic science.
Yes.
How will you maintain your body otherwise? If you don't do that, and science has made it very comfortable for us right now. We don't have to worry about if there is a cold temperature or if we are in US in harsh winter, and no, we have to manifest the agni from our body to stay warm. No, science says, okay, we'll give you heat. You do your sadhana comfortably at your house. We need science for that. Otherwise, how many of us would be yogis who can, like Ramdev, who can harness fire in his body and he doesn't need anything, right? Not everybody can reach that. Science has enabled it for us. Now technology has enabled for us to do this Zoom that we are doing. Previously, people would meet their guru only once or twice in life. Now we can see our guru every day over Zoom. Science has made that technology available. So science is actually making our life comfortable. It's a great enabler. This is how we need to look at it. But then it has to be put it in perspective that it's not the be all and end of all of everything. That's the whole idea.
Thank you, Nitinji. Vandana ji has asked in chat that requesting to please post this on YouTube so that we can share it with others who are unable to join on time.
Yeah,
Today's
YouTube,
session is very interesting.
yeah, YouTube, I'll be, after a week it gets posted, so you can always see that, and I'll mention that as well. By the way, we have Hariji's some music thing, right? We wanted to make some announcements and then we can take other hands as well.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make some announcements. Before that, we can take Rahul ji, and I'll get some more information on that.
Sure. I think few key announcements and then yes, we can take everybody. I think it's a pretty interesting topic, I know. So
yeah, Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Coming back to that coffee lady, I think she wanted to add to that burn all the participants. The change has also gone to the noble cause of JK Yoge's noble cause of JK Yoge's this education and healthcare campaign.
Right.
So I think everybody should try to contribute to that noble cause also.
Right. Every cent counts actually. So very true. And I think essentially that's what she was trying to do here.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll take a quick moment to share all the announcements. First of all, I have put the feedback tracker in the chat. Please put your comments, feedback, questions in the feedback tracker. And I have posted the link for the Seva groups as well. So any Seva groups you would want to join, please do click on the chat link, and you are most welcome to join any of the Seva groups. Apart from that, the main announcement is about the to become a certified yoga teacher. There is JK Yoga Prem Yoga teacher training going on March 17, 2023 and to April 25, 2023. And I have posted the link to register. And there is JK Yog International Women's State Celebration on March 18, 2023. And there is a link where we can join it virtually, and we can enjoy the festivities, and we can see the Women's State Celebration. Family camp is 2023, will be from July 4th to July 10th, 2023. And I'm going to post the link for that so that we can register. Nitinji, I don't have information at this point about Harry G's event. If you can share that, that would be great.
Okay, I don't have it. If you don't have it, then I will definitely not have it. But
Sandhya, if you have it, because I can't find it anywhere.
It's in Dallas, I think, on Saturday. There is
Right.
something related to, I think, for fundamentals of music or something like that. He's going to take a session. So if you're in or around Dallas, do check it out. You will get the details and you could avail that opportunity. A couple of other things. The daily satsang is going on, so do avail that opportunity. And the weekly satsang we always have on Sundays. So these are the two events that you may want to, look at adding to your routine. That will be really helpful. Now let's get to, I can see a few hands. Let's, Pallavi, you can call out and let's hear from other participants as well.
Yes.
This is Sairamji, Champaji, Falguniji.
Yes, Sairamji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
There are some faculties I wanted to discuss about that science and spirituality and that Big Bang. There are some faculties of Sanatan Dharma, I think others who follow Krishna consciousness, that believe that God's signature is everywhere because of the Fibonacci series. That the golden spiral of the galaxies follows the Fibonacci series. Flower petals and placement of certain flower petals follow Fibonacci series. And so they say that God's signature is everywhere. We just need to look.
Yep. True. Very true. Yeah, that's so interesting. I think I'd come across this Fibonacci series, but I'll explore a little more on that. But yeah, God's signature is there in everything for sure. If you think deeply about it, even the creation, how the baby gets created, from small imprints all the way up to a full blown, that itself is miraculous. Because you think deep about it, you cannot negate the existence of God or a divinity or a super, some divine power orchestrating a lot of things around us for sure. Thank you for bringing that, Sairamji. Thank you. All right, who else?
Yeah, Chandruji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
I think I got the answer, Nitinji, by your example of the beautiful literature and the typewriter, because nowhere of the field, Kshetrajana, beautiful literature comes out only from the beautiful mind.
Yes.
If the mind is clear and with the grace of God, attitude and gratitude, can it evolve from the typewriter, the body, the field of activities, can it produce that beautiful literature? Thank you for that example and that visual. It just gave me the spark. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Chandruji. I'm glad it got
Chandruji.
resolved for you.
There is a question, Nitinji, in chat. Rima ji has asked that if the Vedas is not a book, then how did the Western philosophers learn from how and where they read it?
Now it has come in printing press. So Vedas was first given to Brahmaji by God, and then Brahmaji gave it to, I'll tell you the cyclic chain basically, and eventually Vedvyas, who is Chiranjeevi, he actually compiled it in 4 Vedas, and right now it is available in printing press. Everything, they were written down and it is available right now. And when it is available, then people come across it and read it. And you can imagine Western philosophers and all, they take things with a pinch of salt, everything. when they read it, of course, they would have, they did find it mind-blowing for them to be giving such wonderful testimonials around it. So to answer your question, it is available in printing press right now. You go check it out on Google, you'll find most of the stuff, Mundaka Upanishad, this verse, that verse, Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmanand, everything is available right now.
Yes, nowadays PDF is also available.
PDFs are also available, yeah. The verses would be there. Now, if people are writing commentary, that is a different thing. That's where Chinese whisper can happen, okay, their own interpretation. But if it is coming from a God realized saint and you have a reason to believe they are, then of course they will state it verbatim.
Anita ji, Radhe Radhe, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Great discussion. Like it's Big Bang theory itself, even science demands evidence for everything. We only believe science on the basic of evidence. Without evidence, even this science looks like a theory, assumption, and we can't even believe many of the things what science says. Of course, science is required in day-to-day life in every aspects of our life, but we can understand science in a much, much better way only when we can understand spirituality. Only the spiritual science can make us give a better understanding and clear knowledge about the science, and with proof and evidence, and even with the assumption, we can get the clarity how even science works. And this even the basic thing like conception, childbirth, everything, how the soul gets into the womb, it cannot be explained by science completely. So it there science fails. Yes. So spirituality is a must knowledge we need to have in our life. And also I want to quote, I'm just quoting this lines from Sadhviji in every session, that it made a great impact. Like I just want to, whoever is listening, they can also get help from these lines. It goes like, when someone lets us down, disappoints us, betrays us, hurts us so frequently, we take it really personally, feeling like it's something about us. But the truth is, it isn't. It's about their karma, karmic package. What it means is that that person's life toolkit just don't have the patience, the compassion, the understanding, the tenderness, the courage that moment required, that we needed in that moment. But don't take that personally. Realize that that was their karmic package, and instead focus on your karmic package, which is to stay anchored and grounded, connected in your joy, in your peace, in your open heart. And even if their toolkit didn't have what you needed, your toolkit does. So focus on your karmic package rather than someone else's, so that whatever they do, you don't lose yourself. And even Maharajji says, like, you should not be hating and keeping ill will with anyone, even in your dreams. And to substantiate that, Swamiji says, whenever we are practicing sadhana, Swamiji gives the example of this launching of the satellite. There it needs enormous power from everywhere. We need to, if we able to get some essence from that example, we need to gain, we need to put our more effort in the initial step only, whether it is even physical or whatever we are doing. Especially in spiritual realm, we need to put our effort, we need to have the knowledge, we need to have all the understanding, everything, and put it in a best way, and have that patience to go through, and have the perseverance to get to that goal. So I think we need to get over this rag and dvesh. To get over that, we need to have that enormous knowledge and push ourselves, propel ourselves in a much, much bigger way. Hope it helps everyone, someone. Thank you so very much. for the opportunity. Radhe
Thank
Radhe.
you, Raji, for summarizing a lot of learnings today. True, yeah, very true. We have to sail through the initial inertia, and then the progress becomes a little more in a cruise control. And bitterness, we will do it as a separate topic itself. We should not harbor resentment or bitterness towards anybody. It could be a topic in itself. But thank you for bringing in so many nuggets in your short spiel. And yes, previously, see, we didn't have scientists who would go in lab and experiment around. How did they get to know stuff? They would download it directly. Okay, Bhugol was a term. It came in Vamana, not Vara Avatar. If you look at Vara Avatar, he took the earth in his nose and brought it out from Hiranyaksh, right? Who had submerged it in. That time itself, they said Bhugol. It was around. How much time did it take science to figure it out? Long time. Columbus, right? When he came back, he took that trip, and that's when they said that Earth is not flat; it is actually round. So the previous scientists used to be the sages. And how would they get the knowledge? In lab? No, they would download it directly. So all the scientists were sages previously. Great discussion. Yes, I see Champaji. Champaji,
Yes,
please go ahead.
Champaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Today's topic is really very nice. The heading, Science and Spirituality. Nitinji did not say science versus spirituality. That itself shows we need both. And as a teacher, mother and grandmother, I feel it is our responsibility to teach our children all that we are learning now here. See, in India, in curriculum, we have a science, and they don't upgrade the curriculum at all for years. They can drop the Big Bang theory altogether. And Darwin's theory also, now also they're teaching. But it becomes our responsibility to teach them side by side. We have physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, everything. We don't have spirituality in the school curriculum. So it becomes very essential for the parents, the mothers and elders to constantly teach our children all this, so though they don't become irrationally, science we have to embrace, irrationally pro to science and start questioning our own spirituality and our Vedas and all that. That is the mistake done by the elders. We don't tell them properly at the proper age. And see, all of us are getting so much of knowledge early in the morning, and the whole day we contemplate on it. As far as possible, share it with your children. For example, one small example, I'll stop it. Yesterday, Nitinji was talking about Naradji and the 3 dimension, I told my grandson about it. He was really awestruck, Children are very intelligent these days. They understand many things. And he was really, Ajji is so nice. I said, see, that is it, See, all the knowledge what we are learning it is our bounded duty to transfer to the next generation. If the schools are not doing, it is the duty of the parents and grandparents to do it. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Champaji. Very well articulated. In fact, in our Gurukul Pratha, this used to be a dimension that used to be imparted to kids early on. And I don't know how historically what happened when Britishers came, they systematically dismantled our system and stuff like that. And we are probably still having a hangover of that. So hopefully once the Swamiji's university is built, we'll be able to reestablish that, Vedic or Sanatan tradition that we had, where Astra, Shastra and Adhyatmik, all Vidyas, all education is imparted right early on, right? So somehow I think that chain was broken, but it's a cyclical process like anything else in life. So hopefully it will get reestablished. Until it happens, I think as parents, as elders, it's incumbent upon us to first arm ourselves with the right knowledge and then be able to impart it to them very convincingly, because this generation goes with logic. Okay, that's what I wonder with our little one. He's already asking me questions that hopefully, with Swamiji's and all this knowledge, I'm able to answer him satisfactorily. At least I would like to believe so. But you've got to be at least a couple of steps ahead of them. Otherwise, they will just not believe you. They'll say you do some stuff and it just doesn't make sense. So yes, as elders, I think we should introduce to them this knowledge as early as possible, and it's our duty to give them this knowledge, because otherwise it's not easily accessible or available, anywhere at all, right? We are fortunate we get to do it every day, but for kids, they don't have that exposure at all for this life. So the buck stops at us. Only if we invest on ourselves and we are convinced here, then we can impart it to people around as well, including the kids. If we are not there and we hope them that they will understand it all by themselves, in fact, it's not going to happen. So thank you so much, Champaji. You brought up a very important.
Thank you, Champaji. Yeah. So Mantaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Sumantaji.
Please go ahead, Radhe Radhe. Yeah.
Yes, just I want to know, in the chat there are different Seva teams are there, selfless, enthusiastic, Vinamra and Ananya. So in different Seva group, the activities are different or all have same activities?
Do same kind of activities.
Same.
If you are interested, please write in feedback tracker. In fact, I encourage all of you to submit, fill in the feedback tracker regardless. But if you're interested in joining Seva team, please do. We'll assign you to one of the teams. And it's a wonderful, wonderful team with amazing captains that we have. And it'll grow on you. You'll love it. Okay. So there are a lot of meetings that happen, and it's a good way to get involved in Seva. Now we are going to talk about a Seva, I think today or tomorrow, which is a 10-pointer Seva. Okay. And you'll love it, that Seva. Okay. We'll talk about that maybe tomorrow when everybody's there in full force. Okay, you want to do it today? Okay, let's do it today.
So Mantaji, one more thing I would like to add, that what word you want to correlate with yourself, or what quality you want to inculcate within yourself. If you want to inculcate ananyata or vinamrata or selflessness, so you can try to correlate as well.
Yeah, if you feel inspired by a particular word, can go with that, but all the 4 teams are imbibing all the 4 qualities. So let me put it that way.
Yes.
Seva requires all of them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumantaji. I look forward to hearing from you on the feedback tracker so that we can assign you to one of the teams. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumantaji. Vijayji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. First of all, I would like to thank Nitinji for building up the subject so beautifully. And we are sure in the coming days we'll have more clarification, more answers answered. So my question today was not directly related, but since I'm moving on this path of Bhakti Marg, so I just wanted a quick suggestion, maybe how to intensify my Bhakti.
3S, we have spoken about it. Vijay, how long you've been joining these sessions for, and where are you joining us from?
Today is my second session. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, welcome to the session, and pleasure and honor to have you on the sessions. So please keep attending the sessions. You'll start getting all the answers. Just to give you a quick answer on this. See, the good thing about our sessions is we keep going back and forth on the key topics and the fundamentals that we need to keep on progressing on this path. Okay, so we'll touch upon that topic again, but if you want to intensify your bhakti, there are 3 S we have spoken about: seva, satsang, and sadhana. These 3 things, if you add, you can pleasantly also surprise yourself within a span of few weeks and few months that you have come a long way. So pick up a seva. If you're interested, fill out the feedback tracker, do your sadhana. There are multiple avenues on JK Yoga. We have daily satsangs, we have weekly satsangs. You can do your ekant sadhana. We can talk. If you want to talk in person, we can have a one-on-one as well. Fill out your number. And of course, you have to do satsang. Associate yourself with people who inspire you. This is one way of doing it, these daily sessions. But even otherwise, you have to minimize your losses in the world as well. These 3 things would set you up nicely on this path.
So sadhana means meditation, right? Sort of.
Sadhana means Rup Dhyan meditation. You can do that on your own ekant sadhana, where you cut out the world and just sit one-on-one with God at that point. Let's have an offline conversation. We can talk more about it.
Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, thank you so much, Nitin. Radhe Radhe.
About the feedback tracker, we can have a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah, I've already filled that form already. Yeah.
And great to have you on the session. Please keep
thank you so much.
And most of the questions will get answered. We have a wonderful group here.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijayji. Deyasini ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Deyasini.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin Bhaiya. Thank you so much for bringing up the topic. And every time you take up new examples, and I feel like so good to attend. And previously I was not able to attend, so now I'm able to attend. So I would just like to refer to two things, and it is in fact aligning to one of the concept which you mentioned, that is working in the laboratory and all. So first of all, I would just like to read out from the Google that what is the meaning of Oxford, science according to Oxford Dictionary. It is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and testing of the theories against the evidence obtained. And referring to these, so the basic key elements of science is to observe, experiment, and taste the structure and the behavior. Right. So referring to these, I would like to quote Swamiji from his book of Power of Thoughts. For thousands of years, elevated sages and yogis made these questions the subject of their study. Working in the laboratory of their own mind and intellect, they discovered some astonishing truths about creation. They learned why happy and sad thoughts arise, how thoughts transform into cravings, the harm that impure thoughts cause, and the benefits that accrue from purifying them. And Swamiji also mentioned that our thoughts are the subtler energy. So it's the most subtlest form of energy. So we need to purify our thoughts. And in the very beginning, you also have mentioned that the sages actually worked in the laboratory, and their laboratory is their mind. So they also have observed and done the experimentation in the mind. We can't see it physically. They haven't wore these lab coats and all those, but they have worked inside their mind. So this, I really feel so glad about these things, that you are giving us so much knowledge, and Swamiji is also doing the same. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just borrow his knowledge only and report it, without any transmission loss. That's the whole idea. But I'm glad you're reading that book, and it's a great point. Sages, they also used laboratory, but that laboratory was their mind. And through that itself, they were able to come across such certain conclusions and truths about life, which are time tested, and they stood the test of time as well, because that is a direct download of information that they did, right? So thank you for bringing that out, Yashini. Very nice. And keep reading that book, okay? I look forward to some of the nice presentations from you on that as well in near future. Great.
Thank you, Dayasini. There is one quick question, Nitinji, if we can take that.
Sure.
It is from Arunji, and he has asked that what does it mean for the soul being the knower of the field or the body? The soul, I think he missed the beginning of the session, and I think
Being the
that's why he has...
knower means you are the observer, right? We spoke about one of the tools of witness consciousness. That means you can observe. You don't have to participate all the times. When you are participating with your mind, then you are not being an observer. You have not taken a stand back. So there are times when you simply read your mind. You just know your mind is playing tricks. It started going into this rut again, right? And you can even observe your own thoughts, mind, and even your intellect, that your mind, buddhi or intellect is saying this is right or this is wrong. So when you take a step back and simply observe, don't participate. It's like you're seeing an act happening on a stage and you are just a spectator. Who is that spectator? That means you are somebody different from your mind. So that is the witness consciousness or the observer. Study of that I is spirituality. We have forgotten who that I is. We simply participate with our mind, what our mind is telling, what our senses are telling. But when we take a step back, it gives us an understanding that I is something different. I am able to observe myself. When you do certain meditations, right, they say that, okay, get out of your body and look at yourself lying on the floor. Who's that I? That is that subtle element, right? So understanding that subtle element and harnessing that to wake it up from the deep sleep that it is in is essentially what the spirituality is. So knower of the field is that I, and that is what the knower of the field we are talking about. And that knower of the field is enabled by super soul, which is God himself. So studying these two subtle elements is essentially what spirituality is.
Thank you,
Great.
Nitinji.
But we need to talk about other concept as well, multiple, as checking out on different things. I saw your question yesterday, so I'll give you a quick call on that, by the way. In fact, we came across this beautiful quote today. I think you shared it, right, Sandhya? Kuch shraddha, kuch dushtata, kuch sanshay, kuch gyan. And then it goes on to say, ghar ka rahana ghat ka, jo dhobi ka swan. So we have to have a very focused approach to our spirituality. Otherwise, we'll be all over the place. It's important to experiment around, do window shopping, understand concepts from different angles, but we need to come to a point where we settle down, where one message is cutting through your heart and you start taking it deep. Initially, it is important to get that concept clarified through multiple channels, so that concept sticks. But eventually there would be a stage that would come where you start resonating with one message because now you are clear on what needs to be done. So that stage has to come sooner. The sooner it happens, the better it is. But there's no harm in exploring it initially because we are trying to build that conviction in our head around that concept. So it's perfectly okay to begin with. Yes, couple of hands. Let's take those before
Thank
we
you,
make
Nitinji. Monica ji, Radhe Radhe, thank you for waiting. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
Monica ji, please go
Radhe
ahead.
Radhe, Radhe Radhe everyone, Radhe Radhe Vijay. Nitinji, we are yet to complete the topic, right? You haven't revealed how the Vedas were written, right? Because everyone was thanking, I thought I missed it.
So Vedas were, okay, we can talk a little bit more about that as well. That's what I said, Vedas compiled it finally. Okay, so Vedas got it through an oral tradition, right? And then he finally went down and compiled it. How did he write Mahabharata? He asked Ganesh ji to do that. So they have it in their head, but for the benefit of generations to come, he simply compiled it. Okay. So then those are meant, see, now it is in printing press. All the scriptures are in printing press. So he actually compiled. His author is not the author because he's not the source. He simply put the download in pen and paper, basically. Now, how was Mahabharata written? It was written by Ganesh ji. Vedas put a condition that you have to, you will not stop and I will keep speaking and you'll keep writing. So no, he said that Ganesh ji said, okay, I will write all the verses of Mahabharata on one condition, that you will not stop. Okay, if you stop, I'll drop the pen. In fact, that pen was also, I think, one of his tasks. So Vedas said, okay, in that case, I will put a condition too. You will write only after you have understood it. And Ganesh ji, one shloka I would say, and he'll understand, immediately write it, understand, and immediately write it. But then Vedas had to take a break as well in between, right? So he put some Koot shloks, which even Ganesh ji had to think about. Those Koot shloks are also documented right now. So the point is, it was documented, but that knowledge was not coming from Vedas' mind. It came from Brahmaji because Brahmaji got it from God, and through oral tradition, it got passed on to Vedas ji until he wrote it. And then, of course, now it is available in printing press. Right? He might have written down in papers, preserved it in caves, and somebody got it, and then it went on getting passed on from tradition to tradition. That might have happened. So, but the point is, right now it is available, and God has his ways of maintaining that chain whenever that knowledge gets broken. Okay, so it is available right now. Now, who's the person who found it in the cave and all that stuff? I don't have that historical knowledge about it. But the point is, God has ensured that knowledge is available now. Okay?
Right.
All the Upanishads and everything.
Okay. So I also wanted to reiterate what you keep repeating, Nitinji, because I've experienced this myself, that when I got more curious and started reading on Google or wherever, it is very important that we take it from someone who is God realized and not just Google, Wikipedia or wherever, because information is absolutely diluted and manipulated to the extent that you can't even think. Someone who knows something might know that, it is manipulated. Otherwise, there are people who just continue to believe and then download PDFs and study that. So I just wanted to reiterate that as well. I've experienced it.
I've taken a session on that, sources of knowledge. Okay. And maybe we can reiterate that in one of the sessions. What are the different ways you can acquire knowledge and the limitations and the pros and cons of that? So maybe we'll repeat that session in one of the. Google is not a great WebMD, Google.
Yeah.
Do it at your own risk when it comes to spiritual knowledge.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitinji. Still a couple of hands.
Okay.
Prashanta ji, Radhe Radhe, please go
Take a
ahead.
couple of hands. And then I'm going to announce the pointer seva. We'll reiterate it tomorrow. Okay, it's a very interesting seva I'm going to talk about. Let's take a couple of hands. Yes, Prashanta, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, Radhe Radhe, everyone. My question is about the change, I have studied about child psychology. What happens is that when the child is in the certain environment, when he grows up, he actually tends to take his father as role model and copies his character, right? And the way the father treats his mother or other woman, let's say, he starts treating other people like that. Or, the child as the father treats him or his brother or his sister, he starts grasping that knowledge and he starts demonstrating that, thinking that is the proper way of living. Now, is that child conditioned by the environment, or is that child, or the character of that child is inbuilt? Let's say the child is now 20 years, he's an adult, right?
Got the question.
The question is, the change, right? He wants to he wants to change his fundamental character. He wants to be himself, but because of the upbringing, let's say, he's not able to do that. So how can he actually be himself, disregarding the environment?
Part of it is a function of the environment. You're right. That is where each soul is born into family, situation, circumstances which are needed for them. It is done by their own choice. Okay, it's like signing a contract because of the lessons that you need to learn, right? God picks up a prarabdha and puts it very strategically in a particular family under certain situation, circumstances. So part of it is, yes, prarabdha or your destiny aspect of it, the situation, circumstances, which play a lot of role in shaping your initial formative years, right? Yes, part of it is driven by your own sanskars as well. There were two kids in a family. The father was a drunkard. Okay, when the kid grew up, one of the kids, when he grew up, he also became a drunkard. When somebody asked him, why did you become a drunkard? He said, my father used to drink and I thought it is a way of life and I did the same. The other kid said, anything but alcohol. He just developed a hate to alcohol because he saw the bad things that happened. His family became bankrupt. He abused his mother and all the ill effects of his father doing the same. How come the second kid developed a detestation towards or hatred towards alcohol, and the other one picked up and just emulated his father? So part of it is driven by our sanskars also. Okay, so there's no formula that, and then we blame the circumstances that my upbringing was there. There are enough stories to say where people did not have a good start. The cards that they were dealt with were not good, but they still made something out of their life. So part of it, that equation is there, agreed, but not completely. God has still given us this faculty, and we still have some past merit of sanskars. A lot of it is dictated by that as well. Okay. But if we just blame everything around our situation, circumstance, family, grooming, then we are not taking responsibility. Okay. And that is not what is recommended on the path of spirituality. Swamiji has a whole lecture on that.
Okay, now final, a simple question. You said watching the observer, right? Being the observer of your thoughts or something. I tried that, but what happened is that's a very, very less, that's very like a glimpse. I try to do that, but the question arises in my mind. And of course, I start, answering my questions. And when I'm observing my thought, I have already involved in the battle in my thoughts. So how can you just, be away from that? Although I'm trying to be away and watching the thinker, let's say, I'm trying, the mind is there, it's the thinker. I'm trying to be away from it, detached from it, and trying to look what is it thinking. But at the same time, I get involved back and forth, right, in that continuous battle. So how can we just disregard that? How can I be away from that?
So you are being an observer, you are started participating, right? So you need to practice that. You don't participate necessarily at that. Let it come, let it go, right? Why are you analyzing it at that point? When you are an observer, you are an observer. Maybe that practice needs to be deepened at that point, because when you start fighting it, that means you have jumped from being a spectator onto the stage and started participating, right? But the point here is you still have an ability to observe it, and that is what I'm saying. There is a distinction between the field of activity and the knower, and you being a knower, that is the science of spirituality, which helps you to understand that you are a knower and how to get more closer to that conception or understanding of knower and the energy behind that knower as well. That is the science of spirituality. But you, even if it's for a few seconds, you understand, right? You are different from your thoughts. Now that's a different thing. You have to practice it more. But the point is, you are different from your thoughts. You are not your mind. And that is what the science of spirituality helps us understand better. That was the whole point. So we can get to that, Vishant. I think Urvi had raised her hand. Maybe we can take
Yeah,
her.
Urvichi,
Thank you.
I think her hand is down. Let me find
Urvi, you're
her.
not allowed to lower your hand once you've raised it, okay?
Yeah, Urvichi, Radhe Radhe.
Actually, I had three things altogether. I also arranged for the devotional segment, but I think we
Devotional
already.
segment. Okay, so let's start with the devotional segment. I know we had a long conversation, so we'll do it quick because I know we are over time already. Sandhya wanted to sing Urvi, and I think we can have
Yeah,
two.
Sandhya ji. Yeah, you raised your hand, Sandhya ji.
Let's have two, and we'll do that announcement tomorrow. I think most of the people have left, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. We are going to take up and okay. Let me give a quick the trailer for that. So we want to do a seva. Basically, each team would lead that effort. Where Champaji had stated that there are so many participants and we don't know about each other, what we are doing and all, right? So quick seva where at your leisure you can record maybe a 30-second for yourself. Your name, what you do, where are you from, and how did you build a hook with JK Yog and our sessions. And if you want to talk about what benefit you have gone real quick, if you can record it and start sending it, and then teams who are able to drive participants to do that, and we've tried to cover two participants, pretty much everybody in the session. We have around close to 100 people, I would say. Fewer are floaters, but 70-80 are very consistent, and 20-25 are like they. But we'll try to cover, and the teams who can drive more participation, they'll get 10 points for each video we are able to get. And it will be a very nice way. We can play a couple of them from time to time or make Insta reels or something like that. That way we get to know each other and everybody knows, okay, here are the participants, because a lot of people we've never seen their faces, don't even know. And even the faces that we see, people, they have question, okay, what do they do? Okay. Are they humans or superhumans, or, what do they do in life? Are they students or they're doing something more? So it will bring in more understanding of each other, and it'll be a nice activity and exercise. No pressure, Monica ji, but again, every team can drive that, and then 10 points, it's a 10-pointer save up per video. So a lot of points up for grabs. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Did I cover it, Sandhya, or did I mess it up?
You covered it perfectly.
Okay.
Thank you. I also posted about it in the chat. So yeah.
Cool. And please come and share it. And it's a nice way to know each other and putting faces to names and knowing, who's doing what. It's like when you'll come to know there are few scientists in our group, some students in our group, some teachers will be like, wow, you also read Bhagavad Gita. No? We should feel good about it. Yes, Monica ji.
Yes,
Next
Monica
Tuesday
ji.
is your deadline. Yeah.
Nitinji, not fair because all the ideas were already presented, right? So we came up with something which is similar to what you said. So I don't want to reveal it anymore because then it'll be all gone.
No worries. No, that's
So
fine. See, you'll be fine. Trust me. Don't think. Okay. See, I repeat so many things here. Okay. So when people can
Right.
tolerate that, they'll be very appreciative of even those ideas are, not the first time they are seeing. So you go with what you feel. That's perfectly okay.
So please discuss these things after my presentation, our presentation, okay?
All right.
Because we had a couple of meetings and it is similar to what you said. So I don't want to say more. I'm sure
No
my
worries.
team members are like, Monica, just shut up. So
No worries. No worries. We'll wait for
okay.
your presentation and then really pick up on this idea. Okay. In fact, we can use your presentation as a launching pad for this idea. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Radhe Radhe.
Yes, so let's get to our devotional segment
Yeah.
real quick because I know it's very
That-
late for Pallavi as well. So Sandhya and Urvi, let's quickly do that.
Yes, Urviji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe. All set for devotional segment. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
So
Radhe.
I'll sing Jai Jai Radha Raman Hari Bol.
Sure.
Jai Jai Radha Raman Hari Bol. Jai Jai Radha Raman Hari Bol. Jai Jai Radha Raman, Jai Jai Radha Raman, Jai Jai Radha Raman, Jai Radha Raman, Jai Jai Radha Raman, Hari Jai Jai Ram Hari Bol. ब्रजनाचे उसकी किलकन पे ब्रजनाचे उसकी किलकन पे मैं तो बीत गई बिनु। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। राधे राधे, thank you.
Very nice, Urvi. Your voice was going a little on and off, but very, very devotional. Beautiful. Very nicely sung. Thank you so much for that. Nice. It's always music to ears whenever you sing with all the bhavs and all. So thank you so much for that. A lot of hearts you can see. Over to you, Sandhya. Go ahead.
Should I go ahead today only or tomorrow? Like, I mean, Urvi sang beautifully.
Oh, that's fine. You can go.
Okay. Okay. So I will also quickly share my screen for the lyrics. I know it's late, so but okay, I'll go with it. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why is it not becoming full screen? Yeah. Okay. So I'll go ahead. Okay. ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। तेरा रोम रोम जादू की पेटारी नटवर। तेरा रोम रोम जादू की पेटारी नटवर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। तूने लूटे जादूगरी बड़े बड़ों के भी घर। तूने लूटे परी कर ब्रज नारिन घर। तूने लूटे बड़े बड़े ब्रज रसिकन घर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। ओरे जादूगर राधे। ओरे जादूगर राधे। ओरे जादूगर राधे। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। तूने लूटे बड़े बड़े जगत गुरुओं के घर। तूने लूटे निष्काम प्रेम युक्त जन घर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। तूने लूटे सब विधि दीनहीन जन घर। तूने लूटे जिन उनने भी लूटा तेरा घर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। तूने लूटे सब घर राधा लूटी तेरा घर। तूने लूटे सब घर राधा लूटी तेरा घर। तूने लूटे क्यों करना कृपालु उर। तूने लूटे क्यों करना कृपालु उर। ओरे जादूगर राधे। ओरे जादूगर राधे। ओरे जादूगर राधे। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। ओरे जादूगर श्याम तू बड़ो ही जादूगर। Sorry
Very
for
nice,
all the
Sandhya.
yeah.
Very nice. It's a beautiful. Oops. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Very nice. Loved it, Sandhya. And it's a very, very beautiful bhajan. You can just immerse yourself in it. The lines itself are so beautiful. So great. I think we should have one of the session where we just continue on bhajans only. Maybe one of the days we'll plan for that. You've been practicing hard, I can see that. Great. Anything else then, Pallaviji? Or
I don't see any hand raised, so I think we are all set for today.
we all
No
set?
more
Okay.
questions. Such a beautiful bhajan. Thank you, Sandhya ji, and thank you, Urvi ji. Beautiful devotional segment.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Great. So tomorrow we will continue, I think, one more topic, one more session, and we'll wrap it up. And also talk about Natu, Oscar. So look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nitinji, for another awesome session. And stay blessed. Have a great day. Have a great night. Thank you. See you all tomorrow.
Yeah. Please do fill up the feedback tracker if not already. Thank you. Radhe Radhe from my side.